The Portland Trailblazers have put themselves in a position where they need to make a massive move this offseason. Whether it be going all in or completely jumping ship and preparing for another rebuild, this team has no other choice but to make a large deal of some sort to change the direction of this team. And in this video, I will be diving deeper into why I believe this to be the case. Damian Lillard is going to be the main focus in today's video because he obviously has the largest role in this team, and I believe that whatever move happens, it is going to surround him in the sense of him being included or pairing him up with another big time star. We all know how lethal Dame is on an NBA court, especially in the playoffs, and we all know how loyal he is to this Trailblazers franchise, and I give him plenty of respect for that. Just to give a quick recap for the viewers on Lillard's career, he has made 6 All-Star Game appearances, 1 Rookie of the Year in 2013, has multiple All-NBA appearances, and averages 24.7 points per game throughout his entire NBA career. Damian Lillard turns 31 years old as of July 15th, and many understand that the peak athletic career of an athlete starts to decline after a player reaches the age of 30. Of course, there are many exceptions to this, as players have clearly shown they can play the best basketball of their career long past the so-called decline period. With that in mind, the Trailblazers have found themselves in the NBA's no man's land, which is a term that I use to describe a team that has reached its ceiling by constantly making the playoffs but not being good enough to compete for a championship. Many teams often find themselves trapped in the NBA's no man's land because GMs and owners don't want to make that massive risk to either blow up the team or go all in, since it could heavily backfire. So these teams remain in their comfort zones by not making a move and take the safe approach of just keeping the same team with minor adjustments, all to just reach the same unfortunate outcome year after year. Some examples of other teams in that state right now are the San Antonio Spurs, the Philadelphia 76ers, the Boston Celtics, and obviously the Portland Trailblazers. Now, if you look at Portland's situation, I believe that they are in the most difficult situation out of all of those teams. Damian Lillard is clearly playing like a top 3-point guard in the NBA, and they have surrounded him with decent players like CJ McCollum, Yusuf Nurkic, and other guys to have a pretty solid team in the NBA. But to win an NBA championship, you need to have a team that is more than just solid, and the Trailblazers have been looking to do that for quite some time now, but have not made the proper moves. Year after year, this team looks to be searching for that perfect 3-and-D type player that would fit their team and complement the roster perfectly. They've tried to acquire guys like Trevor Ariza, Rodney Hood, and recently Norman Powell, just to name a few, to play that role as this team's starting small forward, and obviously it hasn't worked out as planned. And since this has yet to go as planned, I believe that this team needs to go all in to acquire the next all-star starter in order for them to compete for a championship while they still have a chance with Damian Lillard. They either need to be extremely aggressive in free agency, and there is a solid list of players that the team can go after, like Kawhi, even though I'm not really sure what he's going to do with the Clippers and if he's going to stay, DeRozan, Oladipo, and many more. Or the other option the team could try would be to trade for another star, even though that decision would cost them a lot of draft assets that they would need to give up in order to do so, or even giving away key pieces to the team like Nurkic or McCollum. This is the best option for the team in my opinion, and obviously doesn't work out for everyone, but if you look at the Toronto Raptors back in 2018, they were in the exact same position, believe it or not. They were found in the NBA's so-called no man's land, being a good regular season team but failed to execute in the playoffs time and time again. Constantly try to look for that exact same 3-and-D 3-and-D type player and failed multiple times trying to fit that role. And then eventually Masai Ujiri said enough was enough and traded the franchise's greatest player at the time in DeMar DeRozan and got Kawhi Leonard in return, which he honestly didn't even seem like he was going to play a single game for the team at all. This trade was one of the biggest risks in NBA history and could have backfired many times if just one thing went wrong for the Raptors. However, they went all in and it paid off. I'm not saying this strategy will work every single time, as it has come up short many times in recent history in the NBA. However, the Portland Trailblazers are just in a position where they need to act quickly, or else we will begin to see the decline in a future Hall of Fame point guard without any championship rings to show for it. I think this is a risk that this team needs to take, because then the team and their fans could at least know that they at least tried to go all in and contend for a championship, instead of wasting Damian Lillard's career and wondering what if for the rest of eternity. Some potential players that the team could try to acquire that I feel like would be fun to mention would be guys like Paul George or Kawhi, as both of these players would fit the team's needs perfectly, and obviously this idea is very far-fetched. Bradley Beal would be another large upgrade over McCollum, or alongside him and Dame, or even one of the most uncommon players that probably nobody is talking about in Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is a guy that I think is still a very talented player that just needs to find the right fit on a team. However, his stock is pretty low after this year's playoff run. And yes, I understand he isn't a 3-and-D type player because he physically cannot shoot the basketball, but he is one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA that the Trailblazers could play around with to try to fit into their offense without giving up too much in order to get him. On the flip side of the spectrum, a much safer option for the team would be beginning to shop their key players for draft capital and young assets in order to start another rebuild. This is a move that wouldn't be a fan-friendly one, but like I mentioned earlier, Dame's time is running out, not in the near future but beyond that, and they have an opportunity to at least capitalize on how much he is worth and hopefully have a better run at a rebuild down the road. Again, I know the rebuilding process is not always fun in the eyes of the fans or a franchise. This team just needs to either go all in or completely embrace the tank, because if they choose to just do nothing about it, they will be looking at a very ugly rebuild and much longer process down the road once many of the key players on this team get older and begin to decline in skill. So with all of that being said, I think this is the moment in the Portland Trailblazers franchise where they need to at least do something with their key players this offseason. Please let me know what you think down below in the comments. Should the team try to acquire another star, and if so, who? Or should the team embrace the tank and begin the rebuilding process all over again after trading away their key assets? And with that, it is going to be the end of this video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and please have a great night.